G'day everyone, this is Cartooning and Media with Mr. Brown, and today we are looking at, putting action into our characters. So let's get started. Okay, now the first thing you'll need is you'll need some paper to draw on. You can use paper out of a pad like this. I'm going to be using this paper here. And you also need a few other things as well. I'll just get them for you. You're going to need a pencil. Here we go. Need a pencil like this, a pencil sharpener as well. You'll need a rubber or a razor, and you need a fine liner, which is one of these. Well, I've got one of these, which I use. They're really good. I usually go for the 0.4s. And if you want to add something special to your characters, a thick liner as well. So I usually do a 0.6. I hope you can see that. There you go, 0.6. Okay, so let's make a start. And also, if you have any colouring in shaders or anything like that, let's see if I can find something for you. Sometimes you can use a grey shader like this. They're really good to use as well. Might be able to show you a bit of that later. Now, so drawing a character. Okay, the idea of putting action into characters is having the same character each time, doing something a little bit different. So I'm going to use one of my characters here. Now this is one of my wombats from my Gone Bush series, and when I'm drawing my wombat, I make sure his head and his body are the same size. Okay, so then I'm going to draw a 3/4 view, which means I'm going to draw a line going across this way on a curve and a line there, and that will show me where his nose and his eyes are going to go. So I'm going to give a nice big nose here because he's a wombat. They're these nice big friendly noses. I'm going to mark out where his eyes are going to go. I like doing these little dots for eyes. I've seen quite a few other cartoonists do that, and it's very effective, and you can always add a bit of expression like the odd eyebrow if you want to. Now let's give him a nice smiley mouth. All of my wombats wear these very country looking polo shirts, so they look pretty good like that. I'm going to put his shirt in, and I'll give him some shorts. Now at this point I've got his head roughly. I've got to give him an ear. Actually, before I give him an ear, I'm going to give him his hat. So he's going to have this little curvy, Cobra style hat. Looks like it's been out in the weather a bit though. It's lost a bit of its shape, as hats tend to do, or a lot of the old ones do. Give him his little ear under there. So 3/4 view means you can see most of his face. You can see one ear, but the other ear's behind his head because his head's turned at an angle. Now let's work out where his arms and legs are going to go. Now this is important if you're going to do an action stance. So I'm just going to have our wombat standing. He's going to have one arm out. So I'm just drawing the skeleton, so to speak, here. This is just the framework. And I'm just going to work out where his hands are going to go. And now little short legs. I don't want to give him very big legs. So head height, same size as the body, and about half of that for the legs. Okay, there's 1 foot, 2 feet there, and I'll just give him some shorts like that. Maybe I might have his feet a little bit close together. That's why you have a rubber. You can rub things out if you don't like them, and you can put them how you would like them to be. So I can put his feet there. So I'm just doing my lines there. Now I'm going to come back into that with my fine line. I'm fairly confident in my own drawing to be able to do the rest of the details there. So my fine liner, I'm going to go around his nose like so. Give him his mouth. Go over his shirt. All of these extra details that I like. Later on, when I want to make this look complete, I'm going to rub out all of those pencil lines. But the key for any character is their expression. Here is, I want him to look happy. I want people to be able to look at my wombat and think, this is a happy guy. There's a happy looking bloke here. And he is. He's a happy fellow. Likes to sit under trees and write poetry. This is one of my main characters, Ted Wombat. And Ted's a very happy wombat. He's a bit of the philosopher of the Gone Bush community. And he likes to just sit under a tree, think about life, write funny poems that people like to read. Now, here's his other arm there. Okay, so his proportions are looking pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to finish off his shirt, give him some shorts, like so, and his feet. Now, I never really draw any shoes on these guys. Just give them a pair of shorts and a shirt and a hat, and that's pretty much all they need. Okay, so there's my wombat. He's looking okay. Oops, I think this foot's a little bit longer than that foot. Okay, I'll have to have another go. The more practice I get, the better I'll be. So that's fine. Now, I'm going to draw Ted again, and he's going to be running. So, don't know why. Maybe a dingo's after him. Maybe the goanna's after him. So, he's going to be on an angle. So, here you have, if you can imagine a straight line there for Ted. So his body is pretty much center and standing straight. Now I'm going to draw him running at an angle. So I want to, well, when you're running, often your head's a little bit further forward than the rest of your body. So I'm going to imagine he's running on an angle. So sometimes some cartoonists will do this, and this shows sort of the line of balance, or some might call it the power line or something like that. There's a few different names for it. And as always draw it lightly, because if you don't like the line, rub it out and start again. So I'm going to draw him running. Now, this is almost going to be a side view. Now, remember, I was going to have that line there to show his angle of his body. He's got his head and his body, which is the same size. All right. Now, in cartooning, everything is exaggerated. So before I even start on his face, I might actually draw, I might draw his face just now. I'm going to draw that line going across his face. This is a side view though, so I'm going to have his nose like that. Might just have one eye. Oh, could probably put in another, well, I'll have to think about that one. Probably just one eye. Draw his hat. His hat's probably going to be like that. Maybe because he's running, his hat, the brim of his hat can actually go up a bit. It looks like it's almost about to fall off. And maybe I'm putting a different expression on him now, because maybe there's a reason why he's running. He might be running away from a snake or something like that. Now, for the rest of his body, I'm going to draw a line across here for where I imagine his shoulders are going to be. So I've got putting these little circles there. This is all I do. Other cartoonists do something different, but I put a little circle there to show where the shoulders are, and then I have a hip line. So one line there, one line there. Now the shoulder line and the hip line are never straight. Even when you're standing, if you can imagine, this guy's hip lines are here and his shoulder lines are just along there. So yeah, and that's because, you know, your back's always curving. You know, you're always moving around, you're twisting around as you do things. So let's have his arms. I'm going to start with, from his shoulder to his elbow is going to be the same length as from his elbow to his wrist, and the same here. And if you put it like that, it does look like he's moving his arms, so I'm showing a bit of action. I'll do some triangles just to show where the space of those hands are going to be. Then I'll do the same for his legs. So from the hip joint, or the hip socket you might call it, to the knee, that's going to be exactly the same length as from the knee to the ankle. And then I'm going to draw his foot in there. Okay, now the same business here. Hip to knee, same as from knee to ankle, and then a spot where his foot's going to go. Okay, now you can see he's already looking like he's running. Right, so going over that again with the art liner. Oh, sorry, I might just add a little bit of definition. Sometimes if you're not too sure how the clothes are going to look, just pencil it in. Pencil it in so that you can always rub out pencil, and just do it very lightly. You can't rub out pen, but you can rub out pencil. That's why you do it. Now, I'm putting his clothes on a bit of a slant here because it's looking like they're being brushed past in the wind. He's really bolting for it. Now, I think my sons would say he's booking it. Now, he's probably booking it because I think something scared him or something startled him. He's got a reason why he's running. Who knows why? I've never seen wombats run, so this could be quite interesting. Now, I'm going to pencil in where his knees and his feet are going to go. Just still giving him those skinny legs. And his hands are going to be squarish, like that. And the same here. And just draw one thumb over there. Sometimes when you're drawing, you have your marker lines there, but when you actually go back into it, you realise that sometimes even your marker lines are not quite the right proportions that you really want. And so you don't always have to stick to them. Okay, so here it is. Now, let's go over them again. So, nose first. I always start with the noses. I tend to find because the nose is the centre of the face, it's always good to start with the nose. And I generally go nose, then the eyes, then the mouth, and then everything sort of fits in after that. And that's not a bad thing to do. Some people start with the eyes, some people start with the mouth perhaps. I always start with the nose, mostly because the nose is the centre of the face. And when you're drawing, there's a lot of character in the nose. Sometimes you can have a character with a big nose or a pointed nose. You might see some animation shows where you've got a character with a pointed nose and you know that guy's a baddie. Think of the Batman and Joker characters where you see the Joker with his pointed nose and yeah, he's a baddie. He's got a pointed nose. So, doing the ears for our wombat. Now, he's definitely running. He's definitely booking it. So, draw his shirt on a bit of a slant there. There's one there. Now, when we finish this, when I finish the drawing, we haven't finished because we need to show that he's got a bit of movement happening. So I'm just drawing his fingers and his knuckles. So actually I probably don't need to do that so much. Probably a few lines on his arm just to show a bit of depth and definition. There's his other hand there. Just finish the fingers there. Right. Now, shorts again. Remember the clothing's always going to be a bit loose on the person. So there's his knee and his foot. 1, 2, 3 toes. It's a bit of a Flintstone style foot because he's got 3 toes. He's got 4 fingers. That's okay. You know, no one ever really notices. Think of other shows like the Flintstones. If you don't know that one, think of the Simpsons. Most people know the Simpsons these days. Most cartoon characters, when you see them on telly, will have 3 toes and 4 fingers, including the thumb. And that's sort of a cartoonist trick because all our eyes really do, we're a bit lazy when we look at things. All our eyes are really looking at when we see a figure is we look at the face. We look at the nose, we look at the eyes, we look at the mouth. We don't really look at the ear, and we don't really look at how many fingers or toes someone has on their hands and feet. We do notice it if there's something missing. If there's an arm missing or an ear missing, we think, oh, that looks odd. And then all of a sudden we're looking. But as humans, we're pretty lazy with how we take in detail. We don't always take in everything that's there. Okay, anyway, I'm happy with that. So, now he's nearly done. So I'm just going to rub out all these lines. Like so. This is what I'm hoping you guys are all having a go at doing too. So, But that's the whole idea. Try to draw the same character doing different things. So I'll have to have another go at drawing a few different characters, maybe jumping or flying or something like that. And that's always a good idea. So because it's always a good idea to try and draw the same character doing lots of different things. Draw him driving, draw him flying, draw him fighting, draw him kicking, draw him playing a game, playing football, anything like that, playing tennis, and really think about how is your character going to look. Sometimes it's good to look at pictures of somebody running or somebody jumping. Take a look in the newspaper, sports pages, see different actions for different people, and try and think, okay, if my character is going to do the same thing, how do I need them to look? And look at how does someone kick a ball? How does someone jump over a fence or ride a horse or anything like that? Okay, now I'm doing some movement lines. So movement lines for this guy is probably very subtle. I'll start with the head. So he's moving in this direction. So I'm going to have some movement lines like that, show a bit of direction. I want him to be sweating, so I'm going to have a few drops coming off him, because he could be sweating because he's exerting himself perhaps, or he could be sweating because he's really worried. So that could be it. Now a few more lines on his arms there just to show he's got a bit of movement happening, and now it looks like he's running. Okay, just a couple of lines there makes all the difference. Okay, now I'm nearly done with these guys. The only other thing which you might like to do when you're finished, use your thick line if you've got one, and go around the very edge. You don't have to do this. This is from a style of cartooning called retro, where they tend to outline a lot of these things. That was a style of cartooning that was pretty big in the late 90s and early 2000s. You often saw a lot of animation children's shows with this style, and the style I do is, I don't think it's retro, it's a semi-retro. It's incorporated with a style I used to do, which was fairly freehandish, but I wanted to get a little bit more depth to how I draw, so I thought I'd take a look around and found a book which talked all about retro cartooning. I thought this is good, and so it was a style I had a good look at. And I think as an artist, you've got to keep doing that. You've got to take a look and see what other people do, because sometimes you'll find some really good ideas out there, some very talented people around, and you know, it's good to see what they do. You mightn't like everything about the style, but you know, there might be just a few things that you might appreciate. For example, I really like the Japanese Magna style. I don't think it's a style I do a lot with, but even just the detail they have for eyes and noses and how they stylize the hair, something that looks like a lot of fun to do. It's not something which would suit the kind of cartoons I do, but that's okay. It's a good style to have a look at, a good style to learn from. Alrighty, so I'm nearly done here with this guy. Just a little bit more, and I'm rushing it, I know, I'm sorry. So, but usually you go a little bit slower than this to make sure all your lines are just right and just on the edge. And all you're doing is you're highlighting that character. Okay, so he stands out a lot more now. And I'll do the same to this one as well. Okay, well that looks really good. Now before I go, I forgot to do the most important thing, which is to sign this. So I'm just going to do that now. So GPB, always sign your drawings. And I often put a little year there too for 2020. Okay, I'm going to finish there. Have fun drawing, everyone. Hope you've learned something here from how to draw the same character in different stances. Have fun drawing. All the best. I'll see you next time.